The Coachella 2025 headliners have been announced. And I've got to say, this isn't bad. Like, people will always take issue when they announce the headliners. Some of this is like genre taste based. Some of it would be era taste based, like people who, were 90s kids might hate on a lineup that has a lot of today's artists and vice versa. But the headliners are announced, and it's Lady Gaga, Green Day, and Post Malone, with Travis Scott as the special performer. Last year, it was Lana Del Rey, Tyler the Creator, and Doja Cat, with No Doubt as the special performer. So, I feel like in terms of the star power, headliner wise, this is at least about as good as like the last couple years, because 2 years prior, it was Bad Bunny, who's a mega star, Blackpink, which is a global phenomenon, and then the very elusive Frank Ocean. Those were the 2023 headliners. Now, you often get a lot of really big names and really quality names on that second line below the headliners. But just in terms of pure headliner star power, I think they did a pretty damn good job this year. You've got Lady Gaga, who is a megastar and has been for like the past decade plus, to where she's, well into acting. She's, kind of gone cross genre. She's won Academy Awards, with The Star Is Born duet with Bradley Cooper. So she's got tons of hits to play throughout her set list. And, she pretty much made a name through having very eccentric live performances. So that's like an added bonus. This isn't like a Lana Del Rey where her albums and her songs are the main draw, and people don't really talk too much about how great Lana Del Rey's live performances are. Not to say that they're bad or anything. I'm just saying Lady Gaga is notoriously a provocative and notable live performer. So you've got that. And then in Green Day, if you think about it, who are the biggest rock bands from 1990 and afterwards? Now, there's Nirvana. Kurt Cobain obviously passed away, so you then had Dave Grohl and Foo Fighters. But I don't think that Foo Fighters are like one of the 5 biggest rock bands of the past 35 years. They big band, of course, but I think that Green Day is on the short list with, you could say, maybe the White Stripes, if you consider U2 to be a 90s and afterward band. I know they did a lot of stuff in the 80s and so forth, but U2 is, might be on top of that. But you've got Radiohead, you've got Coldplay, you've had other bands, come up in the 2000s like The Strokes, My Chemical Romance, The Killers, Arcade Fire, Kings of Leon, Linkin Park, rest in peace Chester. But you've had Muse is another one. So you've had a lot of big bands, but I really feel like, and you've got Red Hot Chili Peppers, obviously, but they, again, were really from the 80s, who just kept on making very relevant and successful music throughout the 90s and, well into the 2000s. So I think that Green Day is on the short list of maybe the top 3 to 5 biggest bands, and consistently biggest bands throughout the past 35 or so years. And they've got enough hits to where they could just play the most notable songs from 1994's Dookie and American Idiot. Those 2 albums alone, they could play songs from there and fill up that set list time pretty much. And I'm sure they're going to sprinkle in a lot of stuff from their latest album, whether their crowd wants to hear it or not. But Green Day is about as big as it gets in terms of somewhat contemporary rock bands, we'll again say from 1990 to now. And then you've got Post Malone, who's about as big as it gets in today's music landscape. And it's kind of funny, like I used to run these warehouses in South LA, and at the time we were working with a lot of promotions. So big promotions who throw like big, underground or warehouse events would come in, they would pay us, use our spaces. We had multiple levels, big old rooms, big old floors, and they would throw these, super late night parties. And again, this is like in South LA, and one of the big promotions was Ham on Everything, and they would be booking, different artists that were really big on the underground, some of which are stars today, like Doja Cat. She was at our venues like multiple times. This is like in the mid 2010s, so we're talking like 2014 to 2016, like around that time. But Post Malone was frequently at our spot, and he was at the time a part of Father's entourage. Father is a underground-ish rapper from Atlanta. He was kind of a part of that, wave of SoundCloud rappers. His big song was Look at Wrist, 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 Wrist. So anytime Father would come through and perform at our venues, often with the other rapper Key, Post Malone would often be rolling with that group. Now, I don't think that Post Malone was actually on that father-led record label, Awful Records. Faye Webster, the indie singer, she was a part of that label. But this was at the time that Post Malone had the song White Iverson. So I remember chopping it up with him a few times. When I first met him, he introduced himself and he told me his name, Post Malone. I thought that the name was hilarious. I'm like, what? But he was just a super nice dude. So I don't know, like I kind of have a bias when people talk about him or if they hate on him or whatever, because he was always just like really like cool and respectful and chill every time he would come through the venues. And again, he wasn't a star at this time. He just had a song that started getting some virality in that White Iverson track. But I mean, you want to talk about going from that to becoming a global megastar. I mean, look at the hits that he's had over the years. Congratulations, Rockstar, Psycho, Better Now, Sunflower from the Spider-Man, Enter the Spider-Verse, that soundtrack with Post Malone and Sway Lee. That Sunflower song was mega. That might be Post Malone's biggest song out of all the hits. And many of these hits, by the way, hit #1. After that, he had Wow, Goodbyes, Circles. He had that song with Morgan Wallen, I Had Some Help. And then more recently, he had the song with Taylor Swift, Fortnite, that hit #1. So there is no bounds or no limitations to how big a star Post Malone is becoming over the years. And it's been crazy to see it from afar, just kind of seeing like where he was when he was coming through the warehouse spaces and where he is now. But yeah, in terms of a headliner, I mean, Post Malone, again, he's on that short list in terms of who are the biggest pop stars on today's music landscape. So with these three, not even counting Travis Scott, which I'm going to get to, but with these three, you've got Green Day, huge act from the 90s. You've got Lady Gaga, huge act from the late 2000s, early 2010s, and then Post Malone, huge act from the last 8 to 10 years. So in terms of star power in your headliners, what more could you really ask for? I mean, of course, you've got like Taylor Swift, Beyonce, Eminem, who, they've performed at Coachella at different times, Drake. Yes, you do have other huge names that could be a part of this, but, short of Led Zeppelin doing a reunion at Coachella, this type of thing is about as much as you could ask for. And then you've got the special performance, which means that he's not going to be a headliner, but he's probably going to perform like midday on Friday or Saturday or something. You've got Travis Scott, who, maybe even more so than anybody else here, is throwing the biggest record-setting, attendance-wise, and definitely the most turned up concerts out of anybody. Like Travis Scott, he's become legendary for his live show, sometimes for the wrong reasons. I mean, he did have that tragedy at his Astroworld festival a few years ago, but Travis Scott is mega. Like in terms of the biggest rappers or even rap adjacent, whether you talk about just pure rap or, sing song, auto-tune style rap, but in that whole vein, in the music landscape, Travis Scott is undoubtedly like a top 5 to top 6 to 8 rapper of the past like 10 years. Who do you have? You got Drake, Kendrick, you could say J. Cole, even though you could argue that Future is bigger than, you've got Future, and then you've got Travis Scott, and then you've got others like Tyler, the Creator, Lil Uzi Vert. I mean, you got different big names, but again, you could argue Travis Scott. And definitely in terms of that, post Kanye, post Lil Wayne, auto-tune croonish, artists, you could say that the top 2 in that realm have been Future and Travis Scott. You could certainly make that argument. So yeah, I'm not gonna hate too much about these headliners. I mean, this is mega. Green Day, Lady Gaga, Post Malone, and Travis Scott. Are they everybody's cup of tea? No, there's some people who never listen to Lady Gaga. There's some people who aren't into Green Day and, don't listen to Post Malone. But again, in terms of star power, this is about as much as you could ask for in 2024. But yeah, let me know your thoughts about this. But I'm just reacting to the headliners right now. And I think it's pretty damn good, all things considered. Again, I don't think we're getting a Led Zeppelin reunion anytime soon. But yeah, let me know your thoughts about these headliners in the comments. And let me know how you think they compare to, like, let's say the last 3 years worth of headliners. Let me know your thoughts. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you love music like I do. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.